the missing persons case of a young boy named Terry Floyd.
Like he hasn't given up the search to find his remains.
This man is putting makeup on himself like a cross-dresser. This is the man, a fat pig, because he doesn't want to look suspicious. He doesn't want to raise attention. You are right. He is autistic. Oh my God, he's a truck driver and not suspicious in driving back roads. I 100% feel that he was taken to multiple locations. He keeps showing me this dam and how isolated it is. It is quiet. I cannot hear any road noise. I cannot hear any human noise. It's isolated.
And I also wonder whether he actually felt peaceful in that moment.
You can see where some of the information is doubled up with other mediums. He keeps impressing on me, no one's coming there. No one's coming. May still very well have been with this man till Easter or around Easter 1976. And Terry says the last words he says to me is, he's a deviant. You know, it's just such a shame, a life taken too young. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Medium's Table. I'm your host, Michelle Gardner. This podcast is your personal invitation to join me at the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. Together, we'll explore the magic of mediumship, share spiritual stories, and connect with fellow mediums on this incredible journey. So grab a seat, pour yourself a cuppa, and come join us at the Medium's Table, where spirits gather and stories unfold. On today's show, I'd like to welcome back my sister, Lisa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Today, we're going to be presenting you the missing persons case of a young boy named Terry Floyd. Now, at the time of these recordings, or these readings, should I say, I did not have any information regarding this case other than Terry's photo. So a photo of Terry Floyd and that he was a child. That was the only information I had. And then he went missing a long time ago in Victoria, which is in Australia, which is right down the bottom of Australia. And just for reference sake, for anyone that may think, oh, but you could live in the area, it's approximately 2,200 kilometres away. And for those, and for those that want to speak hours, probably about 20 hours away from where I actually reside. So I don't live around the corner from this case. To this day, I've not seen, read or heard any reports or articles on this case. We will be hearing some today from Lisa. She is like the record keeper. She researches the cases and gives me, again, like I said, a photo, a name, and that's all. If other information is publicly out there and I've heard someone else talk about it, it may be where it's from, but I will always stop someone and say, don't tell me anything else, because I do not ever want to be influenced by information. It's not the point of the exercise. So I'll be presenting information from 8 readings. The information's been segregated topically where possible, and almost exactly as recorded at the time of each reading. I do notice that I say in my readings a lot when I'm in a trance state. It must be a subconscious habit to say, and like. And it's just such Australian slang. But anyway. Okay. Personal and sensitive information and messages about and from Terry have been withheld out of respect for the families. This is, like I said, 8 readings worth of information. I've had to sit down and go through my recordings and pull out all the information, and I've collected them all topical, and I'll be reading them out to you in my notes because it's the only way I'm going to remember them, especially over 8 readings, considering and probably 90% of when I do the readings, I don't remember anyway, which is why I audio record. Okay, so is there anything you want to add to this before we get started, Lisa?
Did you want a breakdown of
what is there much public information out there in this case?
There is not a lot out there. Just the time that he went missing. They have the day, which is 28th of June, 1975. So he would be, what did we work out, 49 this year? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
So 49 years ago. So he was 12
Oh,
when he
yes.
went. Yeah, sorry. So he's 12 when he went missing. Yeah, and his brother is alive and still looking for him. Like he hasn't given up the search to find his remains, because that's what it's come down to now.
Closure, I guess, isn't it? Closure for the family.
Exactly. Yep. Did you want me to tell a bit more about it, or just wait?
Yeah, go ahead and tell about
so
what's happened.
Well, this is what I've got. At 4:45 p.m. on the 28th of June, 1975, 12-year-old Terry Floyd left the Avoca post office after visiting a friend and walked to the corner of the Sunraysia and Pyrenees highways to wait for a lift to Maryborough. He was seen leaning against a white post about 400 metres from the intersection at about 5 p.m. A fawn-coloured panel van was seen pulling up beside him. At the same time, a known pedophile, by his own admission in a police statement, was leaving Avoca and was on the same road heading to Maryborough. He drove a fawn-coloured panel van, which I've just said. Approximately 10 to 15 minutes later, a panel van was seen at Bungbong Hill with a young boy standing by the van. The witness, after going into the bush area, which there are a lot of walks in that area, returned some 20 minutes later, and the van is still there, but the boy was nowhere in sight. So this was the last sighting of Terry Floyd. And further investigations have named a key suspect in Terry's murder, and the probability that a mine at Bungbong Hill was where Terry's body was disposed. Now, his brother's gone digging there, and they found little bits and pieces of clothing, a shoe, silver necklace, believed to have been Terry's, was found among hundreds of tons of debris removed from the mine, but they've never actually found the remains.
Right.
Yeah.
And what they're after is the remains, just the evidence that, yes, they can now put this to rest.
Because they just don't know what happened. And there's very little information. There is hearsay. There is hearsay on the internet. So I don't want to give out too much information in case it's wrong.
Yeah, because it may not be true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he went missing in 1975.
Yes, in June. So he finished playing football, apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll delve into what I've put together out of multiple readings. I've tried to break it down, like I said, topically. So the first section I have is suspect description and characteristics. Now, when I do my readings, I see, hear, feel, and this is what I audio record, exactly what I'm seeing, hearing, feeling, and, if I can hear Terry talk, I will say, he says, et cetera, et cetera. So when I mention he, I'm referring to Terry. So Terry is mentioning tassels and makeup. There's a man and he sits at a dressing table. He's overweight. He's got dark hair, dark short hair, and he's sitting in there in his undies. Now, for those that may not call them that in other countries, it would be underwear.
Jocks.
Jocks.
Or is jocks still a slang for Australia? Jocks?
Maybe. So he's sitting in his underwear and he's putting on blue eyeshadow and makeup. This man is putting makeup on himself like a cross-dresser. I'm hearing fat boy mozzarella. Now, this is what Terry has said to me. And these words, fat boy mozzarella, are aimed at the man. Terry wants to call him, this is the man, a fat pig. So this would indicate straight away, he could be Italian, because to use the word mozzarella on someone just generally, you wouldn't do that unless they were of that sort of nationality.
Yeah. Yep.
Usually. And that the word fat was mentioned twice, fat boy and fat pig. So this man obviously has,
overweight.
Yes, overweight or some weight on him. I've got here another medium. So I've also know other mediums across the world, and they've also had a little bit of insight on this case. And one medium has said that she has seen the man was fat and dirty. So that's interesting. It's like, so this is Terry talking about the man. It's like he keeps everything looking simple around his house and he doesn't let on. Like he just keeps his cool and he just doesn't let on. So what he's saying is he acts normal, like nothing's happening, because he doesn't want to look suspicious. He doesn't want to raise attention. He just keeps everything simple. Nothing's going on. I feel like he's got a wife, or he had a wife, but the relationship is strange. So Terry's bringing me another woman, and there's a relationship there, but I can't quite get out of him whether it's a mother or a wife or what that, but it's a strange relationship. So then Terry's listening. So when they're in the spirit world, they can also bring things that their higher consciousness knows about after they've passed on. So listening in on him, so he can hear her picking on this man. It's the person he can hear the talking, and it's like the man who's there, which is the fat man, is someone's picking on him. And that is how the man is damaged. Mm. So he's giving some insight as to the man is like this because there's been abuse, clearly verbal abuse going on. So there's also someone who gets annoyed and angry. They are quite impatient. They have a short fuse. So this is, again, this person who's picking on this man. This person gets annoyed and angry, and they're impatient. He mentions alphabetical order. The person who was with him, the fat man, had mental health. There was a mental health issue, whether it was OCD or there is something almost like they get themselves into a bit of a state and they'd rock from one foot to the other, like autistic people may do, doing something with their hands, like both hands fidgeting together. So Terry's bringing me these images and trying to portray and use my reference library of what I know and what I've seen to try and show me what's wrong with this man. The alphabetical order is relevant. Then in another reading, I hear my guide. So my guides step in and say to me, you are right, he is autistic. He's talking about this fat man who took him is autistic. He shows me tattoos on what looks like to be the left arm. They look greeny blue in color with a little bit of color, but I can't really make out what they are. When people get tattoos and they're old, way back in the day when, the quality wasn't so good and it would start to all blur together as they aged.
Yep.
So he mentions they're quite large from the shoulder, bicep muscle, sort of blurry. They're old. Whether they're well done or not is another thing, but the person's had them a while. They are not fresh, new, outlined, or clear. The tattoos, so the tattoos are a jumble of a picture. It's not just one single image. It's like it's intertwined into something, or it's like a conglomerate of things that form one picture. He shows me steel cap boots. The guy would have had on steel cap boots. And then I've put in here, because the reference he showed me was what our dad used to wear to work. It was steel cap boots when we were kids. Blue stubbies shorts. Now, blue stubbies, for people who don't live in Australia, or even sometimes the younger generation, back in the day, a lot of truck drivers and workmen would wear, they were actually quite short, weren't they? Small, like cottony blue work shorts.
I think it was probably not only for airing, but perhaps mobility. When they got to step up into the truck.
Yeah, yep. So, and Stubbies was the brand.
Yeah.
So they're a dark
famous.
blue.
They're famous in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. So dressed like a truck driver. He had a dark blue Bonds singlet. Now a singlet is what some people would call what do they call them? I've heard them called all sorts of names.
Well, they're like underwear. They're like what you wear in the underwear.
Yeah, no sleeveless, like a sleeveless T-shirt. And Bonds is, again, another name brand. They're famous, again, for workwear.
Yes.
It's faded blue, but interesting when he brings that through, I'm thinking truck driver. As soon as he shows me, it's like, oh my God, he's a truck driver.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have that epiphany moment. He mentions the word haulage. This is Terry mentions the word haulage and the experience in strapping things down, knots and tying things. I also hear American TV. He is saying, so Terry literally says American TV, and then I hear the theme song to B.J. McKay. You know, the B.J. McKay and his best friend Bear, who was a truck driver.
Yeah.
Which is an old American show. So clearly Terry's really wanting me to understand and emphasizing this man is a truck driver. He drives a truck.
Yep. Which is really actually convenient because he just he's by himself a lot.
Yes. And not suspicious in driving back roads.
Long distances.
Exactly. Hauling bags or stock or whatever it is. There would be no suspicion there. Why would you pull someone over who's a truck driver? That's their job. That's what they do. They drive from town to town.
Yep.
Terry says to me, he's not good. He's physically not good. There's physical issues. Now, I'm not sure whether he was referring to now, but I feel like there's a health decline of the man. Now, as we go down into the last reading, this is important information because this comes out again. Okay, additional suspects. He shows me a man who is acting innocent, like he doesn't know anything. It's like he's pretending he's not telling the truth. He has an accent. He feels taller, a solid build, not muscly solid, but solid, like a solid build. Now, when when I get shown these other additional people in reading, sometimes I can feel what the man or that person they're portraying may feel like. I might feel taller and bigger, so I understand. They bring me the feeling of the person. He's got more darker hair, and I feel like he's Indian or Turkish because of the accent. I can hear it. It's like it's Indian or Turkish. There's something around the accent. And this man is expressing to someone and really emphasizing that he's trying to throw them in a different direction or off the scent or take the spotlight off him. He's sort of saying things like, look, I'm innocent. I've got nothing to do with this. Go and check it out if you want to, but you won't find anything. But the point that Terry's telling me is he's not telling the truth.
Yeah.
This man is not telling the truth. Then we go back to, again, the lady that I mentioned previously. This lady's not very nice. She's someone who likes to be on schedule. She's demanding, and she also has an accent. She is older, late 50s, maybe 60s. She's not very tall, but she's got a nasty tongue. She was someone who was very cold and very harsh. Like when it's like if she was telling a child what to do, she would be pointing the finger and yelling at them like, you go and you do that, like really there was no nicety. There is no nurturing from her. She is she's not a very motherly type, and she would be cold, harsh, and cruel. Now, another medium also saw this woman, and she was yelling at the boy, and this medium also says it was not good, and this woman was not good. There were a few other things she mentioned, but I'm not going to put those in there because they're not very nice. Now we move on to places of interest and landmarks. So to start with places, Terry shows me in a dark room. It's very dark. This room has no windows, and I feel like it's made of stone, like an old stone shed or something of that type of structure. Now, when I'm doing a reading, you can feel when something, it's like a sensing or a knowing that something's made of stone or wood. I feel like the door is made of wood. It's not professionally made. It would be a handmade door. This would be a tiny stone-made room out in the bush somewhere. It's dark inside. It's dingy in this little shack. No one goes there. Now, this comes up in another reading. He also mentioned that no one goes there, like it's isolated. Now, these wooden shacks aren't unusual in country areas. They can be in places where people go hiking, where sometimes the council or the forestry will build them where you can just
like a hut. Yes, like a hut thing that on the trail. Yes, they got shelter. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you come across bad weather, especially in areas where they might be very, very long hikes or in high country where it might snow, and if you get caught in the weather, you can go there and take shelter. I feel inside the wooden hut, it's like he wrote something. Something was written on the inside of the wall in there because it was just so wooden. So there's also wood, because I mentioned stone, and then I'm also mentioning wood. And this comes up in another reading. This is a different reading. The hut was not lined like a proper room. So it's like it's just bare bones, the hut was. He's written something in there interesting, and I noted that it was interesting that I said wooden. And it's he wrote something with like a piece of charcoal or something that would be able to form letters that someone would be able to read, that would leave a mark. There's something he's tried to write on the wall. It's quite dark, so it would easily be overlooked because there is not much light. And due to the fact that it's dimly lit. So unless you went in there with a torch knowingly looking for that.
So there's no windows?
There's no windows.
So it's definitely just a shelter or a storage.
Yeah. So you can imagine if the door was shut, there would be light from under the door. Or,
okay.
Like glimpses of light, and that's all there would be.
Between the wood things or this, okay.
Or even the roofing, because it wasn't, it wasn't professionally done.
Yeah,
exactly. That's right. He says, this meticulous place, tall timber trees, there's a track, but it's littered with a lot of leaves. It comes to a steel gate. So this track comes to a steel gate, and it's just a plain silver tubing gate, like a farm gate. You have to open it to come in. Now, if I'm looking out this gate, so if I'm standing inside the gate, looking outside of the gate, off slightly to my left, I see a high stone hill just taller than the trees off in the distance. So that would be a landmark.
Yep.
Now, another medium has picked up the same kind of type of hill, a rocky incline. She also mentioned seeing a highway or a river nearby. Now, I do mention about the highway later on. And also I've got written here, another medium has also picked up some sort of high rock mountain formation. So that's 3 of us that have picked that up. He shows me in another reading an old shearing shed. And I really feel it's like an old shearing shed. You just get the feeling. I've been in shearing sheds, so they use my reference library. He talks about being the first one inside the gate. Now, whether he's referring to sheep, when they let sheep in, they let them in one at a time.
Yep.
When the doors open, I look out and I can see green pastures. It's like something's growing in the paddocks around it. He also shows me in one reading tall marshy reeds that would be in a swamp and a lot of tall grass. Now, another medium also got tall, long grass.
Mm.
Now, during all these readings, I almost want to say I 100% feel that he was taken to multiple locations.
Yep.
And he was kept for some time.
Mm.
Okay. He mentions a spot in the bush. So he actually shows me this where there's some really big boulders, like rocks. I wouldn't say they're not like huge, ginormous ones. They would be coming up out of the ground, almost like, say, waist high, that type of big. A lot of leaf litter where these rocks are. It's not dense bush, but there's enough clearing that it would make it easy to dig a hole. And I'm being shown there's 2 rocks side by side, and they're more roundish rocks that part of them would be sticking up out of the ground. And it's not flat land either. This particular spot is more shaded and damp, and there's moss growing on the rocks.
Yep, which would be on the south side of the rocks, moss.
Which would mean that's where they would get the most shade.
And the damp area, it'd be easier to dig.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes. Okay, so he's showing me the reference of an old, what would have been service station, which would be a fuel station,
roadhouse.
A truck stop, roadhouse, yes, all one and the same. Way back in the day, that would have also had a diner in it, or like a cafe where you could stop and get something to eat. It's not used for that anymore, whether someone lives there now as a home or it's abandoned or closed down. So he brings that to my attention. Generally, I don't know about other countries, but here in Australia, when those type of roadhouses or truck stops close down, they either become abandoned, repurposed, or someone lives in them. They turn them into housing. He puts me in the main street of a town. It's an older town. The shop reminds me, so he's showing me a shop, reminds me of the style of an old butcher shop near a dry cleaners in the town where we come from in Yarram. And that town is quite historical. The buildings are very old. A lot of them were built in the early 1900s.
So Avoca is an old town as well, where he left to go. And so is Maryborough, in fact.
Right. And that's mining country, isn't it?
It is gold mining back in the day. I think people still actually go out with the metal detector, gold, what they call it, gold hunting, what do they call it?
Prospecting.
Prospecting, that's it. Yeah.
Right. So the glass window, there's a big glass window and some sort of light blue brick-sized tiles around the windows, which would have been a feature. I couldn't get what this shop was. He didn't show me what the shop was. He's placing himself there, and it's something familiar. So he's there. It's not like it's this is an unusual. I can feel the familiarity to him.
Yeah.
And it's a key to something. This is an important piece. This is why he's showing me. And he brings forward the insinuation that he went there to pick something up. So he went there to collect something. I still to this day want to say comic books or trading cards or something like that.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking 1975.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So another medium also put in, she's in her reading, she said that she saw him leaving a shop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In one reading, he shows me a brown dam. The water is dirty like clay dirt. It's open around the dam, but there is bush surrounding it. Now, in Australia, when I say a dam, I know in other countries when we talk about dams, they're talking massive water sources for towns and et cetera. So these dams are built by farmers with, machinery. They just basically dig a great big hole, mound up the sides, and it's for the cattle in paddocks, for the cattle just to go and have a drink out of.
But it is relatively shallow because the cattle need to walk in there and walk out or not go too far in there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So a water hole, so to speak. But a dam is what, because the clay, they use the clay so the dam doesn't go through back
the water.
Into the earth.
Yeah, exactly. The water doesn't seep through. The isolation of this dam, he keeps showing me this dam. So he keeps showing me this dam and how isolated it is. He shows me that it's a little bit clearer around it, but there is a lot of bush still surrounding the paddock that this dam is in. And when he shows me this, it's first thing in the morning when the birds are singing. It's actually beautiful. It's isolated. It's so quiet. Nature just carries on. There is no one around. It is out of the way. I can't hear any other noises other than the birds. The magpies warbling. The sun is shining down on this property. And it is just beautiful. It is quiet. I cannot hear any road noise. I cannot hear any human noise. It's isolated.
I also wonder whether he actually felt peaceful in that moment.
Well, yeah. Reflecting back on it once all the trauma had dissipated.
Just, one of those, where he was at that stage where he could actually find peace in that moment in the early morning before buggerlugs got up or something like that. Before anyone came to get him or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually have a strong sense that I want to say he's there. That dam. And it is because it's a new dam, no one would go there. They dig them and off they go. Then they just move cattle in and out whenever they
But it was a new dam in 1975 or 76.
That's right.
Or that time, yeah.
Exactly. Because I've noticed when he was showing me there was no saplings growing or trees growing on the edges that were mounded, which indicates it's new because generally over time nature takes over.
Yeah. Yep.
And you'll get saplings growing and et cetera, and bracken and all sorts of things growing there. Okay. So now he's showing me a road. It's a sunny day, late to mid-afternoon. I see bush, surrounded by bush. So there's a road that has got bush on either side of it. Now, it is like a 2-lane highway, but a country highway. It's a major road people travel on, but it's not busy. Country highways are not busy. I've seen these enough. We're from the country. I know what they look like and I know what they feel like. He shows me a truck. This truck that the man would have driven would be traveling on a country highway, a bitumen road with bush on either side of it, and you've got the dugout drains. You know, the council just come along and they dig the drains out. There's no frills, just so the water can stay off the roads. It's a single lane either way, which I've mentioned. He did mention that, and it's not busy. So, you know, you might get a car go maybe in the mornings and the afternoons if people are traveling from town to town for work. But you could go 10, 15, 20 minutes and not a car in sight, if not longer sometimes during the day and especially weekends.
Yeah. So I just saw a snake go across the road. Sorry. Do you know what I mean? It's so quiet that the wildlife pretty much have it all to themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So another medium also mentions a motorway or a highway. So that's interesting. So you can see where some of the information is doubled up with other mediums.
Yeah.
Okay. In another reading, Terry shows me an old cemetery and a grave that has an old wire fence just around the grave stone part. It's painted white, but it's made of wire and it's getting old and worn. This grave site, this particular grave, feels older. Now, in a lot of country areas, the cemeteries are not big. They are not maintained. There's usually not enough people to maintain them. And because they're small and because they're older areas, there's a lot of really old grave sites there. And a lot of them are unmarked as well, unfortunately. Okay. So then we're going to move on to the subject of a house. So this is the readings where he shows me a house that he was in. He says about a house full of junk. Dingy was the best word to use for this man's house, and this is how Terry's describing this. Terry also sees a dressing table is for the man when he sits to do his makeup in front of the mirror. It's a creamy white color with 3 drawers down the side. I can't see the left side, but I can see the right side, and it's quite dimly lit wherever it is that he and where this man has it. And I can see this from another room. So Terry's saying he can see this from another room. He can see it. It's not a doorway. It's like a square archway that I can see through to where he's sitting, and there's 3 drawers to the right side from the top of the dressing table down to the floor. Now, remember when I first started reading out this information about suspects, I mentioned a man putting makeup on in a mirror. He's a cross-dresser, okay?
Yep.
This is the dressing table. It's not a very big house at all, very small, messy, grubby, disgusting, and dirty. And also, if we reflect back, another medium said that this man was fat and dirty as well.
Yeah, yep.
The carpet is patterned and it's dirty, but what would have been brown patterned squares of gold and sort of goldy yellow design, which back in the 70s, 60s would have been an in thing.
Yeah, I would even go back to 50s. Because, and it's interesting, I just quickly want to say how you say the house is dingy, which is also a reflection of inside the man. You know, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hiding. He was hiding.
Yeah.
And in the middle of nowhere, why would you want to hide, you know, like, it doesn't make sense. But that is obviously him just being reflected outward in the house, that the fact that he kept it dark. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I can see the dressing table from the dingy room, the lounge room. So Terry's in the lounge room and he can see, which is dingy and dirty, and he can see through the archway to this man at his dressing table. It doesn't appear to have a fence line around the house, but there's a house yard that is clearer, and around that is just bush. Although beyond the back of the house, you can see down through the bush. The house is kind of higher, so you can see down. But you can see down there's when you look through the bush, what he's trying to say here is that you look down over lower lands of other trees and all that sort of thing. So there's just bush, that's what he can see, and lower lands. The man's house is white peeling paint. It has a small porch on the front that is half closed in from the bottom, a wooden veranda, very old house, run down, not maintained, no gardens. He just lives there. There is no care and maintenance. It's got like a pitched lined roof, like a pitched roof. Roof line is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
On the facade of the house where it peaks, which is on the front of the roof lining, they had pieces of cut tin that was ruched or scalloped that would have lined the roof. And it's like it's a fancy decoration that they put on houses a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a plain metal roof on the outside. This house is also somewhere where it would have been out of the way, not on a main road. This house is out of town. The veranda juts off of the front of the house. It's not the whole length of the house, though. It's not the entire frontage. It's just a small section, almost like a large landing to go to the front door, but it's only a half wall. Okay.
Well, that's to keep the sheep out, isn't it?
Well, probably, yeah, especially if you're in a farmhouse. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. There's a front fence. It's made of wood. The fencing is just old plain wood and wire, which is a typical farm fence. There's a dirt road in front of the house, just like that orangey, gravelly dirt country back road. So over here in a lot of the country areas, they lay like it's an orangey gravel, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a dirt, yeah. Let me have a look. There may even be, if you come into the gate over the right, over on neighbouring hills, so to speak, there looks like there would have been a pine plantation. So when you come in the gate and you look over to the right on neighbouring hills, there would have been a pine plantation.
So that would be government owned then?
That's right, exactly.
Right.
But this is in the distance.
Yeah.
And he keeps impressing on me, no one's coming there. No one's coming. From the front gate, the house sits a little bit diagonal on the block. So it's not square to the block, it's slightly diagonal. Mm-hmm. There is some sort of lake in the area, and it seems to be way, way over the back. If I was to look way past the house, like way, way, way over the back, I would be able to see it in the distance. Mm. That's how far away it is. So for people that live in this area may know these landmarks. I am not familiar with this area, so I have no idea what these would be or where these would be. Another medium also mentions that she saw a lake as well. He talks about white markers, white posts out the front of the house that would indicate the driveway, and they would be on the side of the road, and the white posts would have reflectors on them, especially where the driveway is. And we have them here, so at night time when you're driving along, you see the reflector shining, so you know where the edge of the road is, especially in country areas.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so there was a reading when he mentions the weather. He mentions about a heavy storm coming. Now, another medium also mentions a storm, and it happened around a storm. Now, I'm not sure if you can go back and look at past weather reports, but that may be something significant around that time.
Yeah, yep.
Time frames. Terry mentions Friday, and when he says it, it sounds like he says the Super Friday or something along those lines, something about Friday. Then in another reading, he mentions Friday again, Good Friday, Easter. And there's got to be a reason why he's mentioning these days. And then he mentions 1976. Now, when I did this reading, I didn't know what year he went missing. Mm-hmm. But you said that he went missing in 1975.
Yeah, June of 1975.
Okay, yep. Which means he may still very well have been with this man till Easter or around Easter 1976.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Which is,
very possible.
Yes. Mm. Now, there were other things that, like I said, I'm not mentioning in this reading. Terry did show me some things that happened to him and what he was made to do, which I am not going to mention out of respect for the family. So there is more information behind what I've got here. Now let's talk vehicles. The person, being the man, was driving a ute. Now we call them a ute. Other places call them a truck or I don't know, something with a flatbed on the back of it, like a dual cab with a flatbed. This was a four-wheel drive ute, or would have been a four-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive, because it was higher off the ground. That I did notice. It was not a new car at the time. He says it was a late model. And he mentions, when he says a late model, he also sounds something that sounds like Virago or Verigo. I'm not sure if that was a model of car back in those days or whether it was slang for something that they used in their family or in that area. Okay, so I really don't know what that means. He brings me the front view, so to speak. It appears, so he's bringing me to the front of the car. So it's like Terry standing in front of this man's car. It appears to be a white four-wheel drive ute. And like I said, whether it's four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, they're always usually higher than a regular car. It's got a black bull bar. And again, he shows me the man sitting behind the wheel has the tattoo. So he shows me when he's driving. So if Terry was, standing in front of it looking at the man, when he's driving, he has his arm stretched out. He shows the tattoo on his bicep on his left arm. The man has dark hair. It's not short. It's long enough that it would fall over his ears a little bit, almost like he needs a good haircut. Yeah. He is not clean shaven. He has it's like a 5 o'clock shadow to a very short beard. And he has a gut on him, like we call in Australia a beer belly. Mm-hmm. This would be a single cab with a homemade mesh behind the back window, painted white, like solid wire mesh. Now you would sometimes they have these welded onto the back, covering the back windows of the cab of the ute, so that anything that they're carrying on the tray doesn't go into the cab of the ute. Terry then shows me a grain store that was next door. Okay, so we had a grain store that was next door to our dad had a panel shop, and there was a grain store next door that sold stock feed. So Terry's using my reference library. Mm-hmm. This person hauled live stock feed. He shows me the semi-trailer, the trailer part that was, it was an open bed, and it was the stock feed was loaded onto there, and it had steel metal barricades that would be up either end of the trailer to stop anything from rolling off the back or the front. And this would be the man's double life.
Yep. Can I just quickly mention too about the orange dirt and dust on the back roads? So a white vehicle, that could actually turn it fawny coloured, would it not?
Yes, it could, if it's not washed. Yes.
So that's just another thought. So I just thought I'd just mention that.
Yep. So he's really strongly impressing on me the cab of the truck, the darker leather seats on the inside, dark carpet. The truck was burgundy colour with a possibility of a silver stripe down it. Now, this truck was also an older style truck that had the extended nose. Yeah, like these days trucks are flat face. This one would have had the nose on it. Okay, so random information. There are pieces of information that may make sense to the family. I have not included all of them, as they wouldn't make sense to other people. So he shows me something, and he says it's on the table. So I couldn't quite understand what he was saying. He says on the tables anywhere, and I'm like, I'm not understanding what you're saying. And then he shows me a recording. And he mentions about there is a recording that would be out there. So what he's seeing on the table is it would have been a cassette recorder, like a dictaphone.
Yep.
And there would be a recording out there about what happened to him, of the man's voice, and it may even have Terry's voice on it. So there was a recording that was made, and that's what he's trying to tell me is this device was on the table. Okay, he tells me something, you're trying to sell me this. So again, these pieces of information were extracted from multiple readings. So did he meet up with someone, or I feel like someone's tried to approach him to try and sell him something, and how easy would it be back then? Oh, hey, mate, I've got this. Do you want to buy it? Could have been, again, a comic, a trading card, something that a kid would be interested in. And again, that would have been a conversation starter.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yep.
And an innocent one.
Mm-hmm.
He also shows me in the leaves, again, where this shack was in the bush. He shows me something metal was dropped there, something that looks like a pair of tweezers. But this man, didn't realize that it was dropped, and it would still be sitting out there in the leaf litter on the floor of the bush. But you would need to know where this was to go and look for it. Remembering this was 1975 and we're now in 2024.
Yeah.
So a metal detector, maybe able to pick it up. Now, Terry has given me all that information, but he also, which I love this about the spirit world, when they come in, they also like to talk about themselves and who they were. Terry presented himself to me riding a bicycle. He was quite independent for his age. He just had an independent nature. He wanted to do things himself. When he shows me riding his bike, he's traveling down country roads. He was adventurous. Now, back then, that wouldn't have been unusual for kids to get out and ride their bike from neighborhood to neighborhood. A friend just lived out of town. It's not very far. You ride your bike, and you would spend all day out riding your bike, riding around, just being a kid. And that was normal back then. Now, after I did these readings, and so what happened was, this was 2 months after finishing the readings, where I thought, okay, the readings are done. I've gone as far as I felt I could with him. Things still seem to keep coming up around Terry Floyd. I was doing a reading this was another reading for Anna Beaumont, which is, she was part of the 3 kids that went missing. And Terry is wanting to come in. So I'm trying to connect with Anna, and I've got Terry coming in on top, which happens in the spirit world. They'll piggyback in on another reading to say, hey, hang on. I need to tell you something. The urgency he brings to do with his readings means I still have not finished. He wants me to press on. On this night after the reading, I actually did send a report into Crime Stoppers, but I did not hear anything back. So I gave Terry the chance to finish off what he wanted to tell me. Mm-hmm. Now he says, he shows me just standing there, that this was after I asked him, what happened after he passed? What did he see? And he says he was just standing there. He then shows me cows in a milking shed. He also shows me someone who's an elderly person who's struggling to walk. Now, this elderly person, now that we've worked it out, is the man who took him. This elderly person, this would be current. This man is now elderly. This man is now in a nursing home currently, and this would be currently. The building is, that real deep red brick and they have the extremely white mortar around the brick. It's almost like they use it like a feature. I don't know why they do it, because it's just so stark, the contrast.
Yeah.
It's not an old building. It's quite new and modern. This person would be getting around with a walking frame or something of the sort, and it's like they're having trouble walking. The name of this retirement village or this nursing home would be something to do with a church title like Saint or Presbyterian, something along those lines that has a shield on it as an emblem. I hear him say, always seems like a joke to me, but this is the thoughts of the man, and that's in reference to all the years that nothing's happened. Like it's just such a joke to him. He's gotten away with it. It's a joke. They couldn't even catch him. What a joke. This is Terry's bringing me the thoughts of this man. Okay, so Terry talks about his stomach churning. Like, when you feel nauseated. So this is Terry telling me how he feels, as in Terry feels like this, because when this man is out in public, or he shows me attempting to attend to the grounds where he's currently residing. Sometimes in nursing homes they'll do a little bit of gardening, even though they can't do much, but it's something that they can do, makes them feel useful, etc. And he shows me it would be something extra to do as a resident. And when he's around little kids, or there's little kids around, Terry's stomach churns because he should not be around children. Now, he brings me a scenario where this man would be outside on the grounds, pretending to tend to the gardens or flower beds. Yeah. And there are other families visiting with young children. And that was what makes it, that would be where this man's actually looking at these children, having thoughts.
He's waiting for an opportunity.
And Terry says the last words he says to me is, he's a deviant.
Yeah.
So even in the spirit world, Terry he's bringing me that horrible feeling in your stomach when you're like, this is so wrong. This man thinks he's gotten away with it. It's all a joke. And he is still looking and wanting to prey on children, even though he probably couldn't now, but the thoughts and the urges are still there.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the, 8 readings we did on that. We also, again, got other mediums involved to see what they got, just so we could compare information, and a lot of it was backed up by other mediums. It's, it's just such a shame, a life taken too young.
But again, you've given them a voice.
Yes.
And they get to tell you what they can of their side of the story.
Yeah, yeah. And I do believe after I'd finished these readings, there was mention about his brother. Did his brother start an organisation or something?
Oh, yes, the Terry Floyd Foundation, yes. They provide breakfast for children who don't have breakfast, or they don't have the means of having breakfast. So they go around to the different schools in the area, around Maryborough and that area, Sunraysia area, and provide free breakfast for children.
Oh, wow. So this would be families who might be struggling or doing it tough.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's on Facebook. The Terry Floyd Foundation is they do have a Facebook page. So if you wanted to look it up, donate or just check out what they're doing. Yeah.
Which is always great to see something positive come out of something. Trying to help the kids. I mean, I'm sure they do more than that, but that's what I remember when I looked it up, and I just thought that's brilliant. It's a legacy. It created a legacy for Terry. Yeah. To support other young children. Yeah. So, now, the case is still currently open after 49 years.
His brother's still trying to find his remains.
To get closure. If you have any information or you do know something, you can call Crime Stoppers in Australia anonymously. And I'm sure, it would be, after 14, I couldn't even imagine bring them some kind of closure. So, Thank you, Lisa, for being on the show, and we look forward to seeing you again in the very near future. And where can people find you?
They can find me at Divine Insights with Lisa on Facebook at the moment, and I've also got a meditation group on Facebook called A Safe Space to Meditate.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me at the Medium's Table. The universe is always speaking. Listen and let your spirit soar. Curious for more? Click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe.